Hello there. Today I thought I'd carry on with my look at some garnachas from Spain, wines that I find incredibly interesting. So this is Vina Almate's Garnacha. This is produced by Alfredo Maestro, and it's a wine that's made, they say, and it's a wine that's made from vineyards in Peñafiel, which is near Valladoid. So we're around the Douro Valley here, not quite as far up the valley as the Ribera del Duero region, but to the northeast of Madrid in northern Spain, not as far over as Galicia, and in a region with quite high altitude vineyards. Again, the notes I have on Alfredo Maestro say that the vineyards he uses lie between 750 and, they say, 998, but let's say 1,000 meters above sea level. So it's an inland area with a continental climate that's cooled by the altitude at which the vines are planted. Again, Alfredo Maestro using old vines. He says the average age of the vines they're using are 60 years. These particular vineyards evidently have chalky limestone subsoils, so I'd imagine very good for old vines that are unlikely to be irrigated, to give them water reserves to see them through a dry summer. Now, Alfredo Maestro as a winemaker is quite interesting. He started making wine in his garage in Peñafiel. He'd been living away and came back to the area specifically to make wine. So yes, started making wine in his garage in 1998. He'd previously been working in finance and slowly built up his winery, producing wines that are described as being natural. Now, nowhere have I read that these are actually wines made without the use of sulphur, but that would be a normal assumption to make if somebody refers to their wines as natural. So certainly it's low intervention. I've seen mention of biodynamic farming, but they say biodynamic or low intervention farming depending on the year. So I don't think there's any biodynamic certification there. I think it's more sort of an intent to be as biodynamic as possible according to the conditions of the vintage. And again, I think the winemaking is as low intervention as possible. The fruit here is hand-picked. I've seen two opposing views. One suggests that the fruit's entirely destemmed, and the other suggests that the fruit is left with all its stems, so whole bunch fermentation. I think from the various notes I've read, the whole bunch is probably the correct answer. Fermentation goes on in stainless steel tanks and is conducted with indigenous yeasts. Maceration's allowed to go on for 25 days, after which the wine is moved into 500 litre French oak barrels. They don't say how new those are, but one would imagine probably a majority seasoned. And it'll stay in those barrels for a year. However, it undergoes its malolactic conversion in the barrels, which will help to give a sort of a roundness and a richness to the wine. It's then racked once after the malolactic conversion, and is then left with the remaining fine lees in the wine until it's sort of again racked before being bottled. Again, I think the suggestion, although they don't say so, is that there is simply the racking before bottling. There's no filtration, presumably no fining as well. So yes, I think Alfredo's winery grew quite quickly. However, it wasn't until the 2000s that he was contacted by an American importer who tried and enjoyed his wines. And I think at that stage the brand really took off in terms of sales, having only been sold on local markets prior to that, really. So let's have a look at the wine and see what we make of it, shall we? I think first thing to say, for a Grenache, it's certainly dark, it's relatively deep, it's medium to deep. For a natural wine, I'm not seeing it as being particularly cloudy, so being unfiltered, that's not a problem. Now the aromas have quite a sort of a meaty barnyard note. I sometimes refer to aromas as being high-toned, and actually often what I mean by that is that they smell, shall we say, balsamic. There's a vinegary note to them. Oxidized, perhaps, is a suggestion. This is incredibly high-toned, but in a sort of a really high-toned, very quite, almost sort of volatile perfumed note. Sort of like very ripe red cherries. You know, a really heightened aroma, really sort of perfumed there. Very attractive, but you know, there's sort of slight spiciness to it. From my point of view, it makes me wonder if the wine is sound. So let's have a taste, shall we, and see if it is. On the palate, those high-tone notes that I talked about continue through. It's almost like a really delicious balsamic raspberry vinegar or something. There's a real lovely juicy fruit, but there is this sort of quite volatile lifted note that's really giving some lift to the perfumes. It's bringing out sort of delicate black pepper notes on the finish as well, slight spices. Maybe there's a little bit of cedary spice showing as well. There's quite a drying note. There's fine tannin. The wine is medium to full bodied. I mean, it's 14.5% alcohol, so there's some weight and richness in there, which is giving it some stability. It doesn't seem particularly warm because there's a rounded, almost slightly chocolatey, velvety texture to those rich fruits. Again, there's that sort of quite high-toned, dark red to black cherry, very juicy. There are notes of boysenberry, mulberry, raspberry, all those sort of lovely lifted juicy fruits. And I think there is that sort of note of slight volatility that's actually giving a lift to the fruit and making it seem very pretty. But it's working because there's enough concentration of the fruit to give it this sort of rounded core of rich, chocolatey, velvety, textured, ripe fruit. As I say, the alcohol seems in balance. The acidity, the natural grape acidity seems to be balanced to soft, but there is this sort of volatile note that's giving everything a bit of a lift there. Now I'm actually finding this a really quite enjoyable wine. It has complexity, it has density, it's got stability because of its alcohol. It may not have a lot of preservatives in it, and that has given it a lifted aroma. Now I'm concerned that those aromas may soon go flat as the wine sort of ages more quickly than a wine that wasn't a natural wine would do. But at the same time, in the meantime, you've got this lovely freshness and vivacity that's working really quite well. I did have a look at our critics' average score for this, and it's been given a 90. Although I do note that of the scores it's got, some of those have been a lot higher, sort of 94, 95. And I think maybe that says something a little bit about how these natural wines can actually sort of be very beautiful, very pretty when they're young, but can suffer from having to travel or being kept too long. Just that they may lose their vivacity more quickly than a wine that's been treated with sulfur dioxide. I guess that's a sort of a risk you take while buying natural wines. You can get them at their height, or alternatively you might not. Currently I think this is drinking beautifully. I'd be worried about keeping it for a lot longer, but just now I'm really going to enjoy it. So thank you very much for watching. If you found the video of interest, if you've enjoyed it, please press the like button. If you think that other people you know will enjoy watching, please share it with them. If you'd like to watch more of these videos, it would be great if you subscribed to our channel and followed us. It would be fantastic to have your support. If you have any comments, please leave those in the comments box below. We really do enjoy your feedback on the wines we're looking at, the tastings we're doing, or anything else that relates to that. Most importantly though, do please try and find some time and come and join us for another tasting in the near future, won't you? Thanks again. Bye for now.